Okay, the last thing that we need to kind of walk through is custom properties, or basically the CSS variables. So you guys have played around with those in Free Code Camp, and there are resources that we can go to. We can just type in Google and go to the MDN resource for CSS variables and see some examples of stuff. Um, W3 Schools in this case does not have the best resources for that when I type it up. So let's just now if you go into Google and you just type in CSS variables or custom properties, you can end up getting this link, which is to CSS Tricks, which I think is a very good resource kind of explaining about it. Really, the whole reason, this is the reason why I really want you guys to be using it, is that it makes it easier for you for these two reasons: for you to be able to update your code, choosing your colors, your font size, um, your spacing, your margins, all of that. You're going to end up kind of developing like a standard layout of what you're expecting. You want a certain amount of space around the tops and bottoms of your paragraphs. You're going to want a certain amount of space on the left and right, margins or padding. For any of those, you guys could start standardizing those spaces. And then that stuff may end up being something that is dictated to you from the client if you're doing this as a business. You could also look at the font sizes. What is our default font size? What is our larger font size? What is our small font size? What's our headings? How are we going to size those? And there should be custom sizes for that, because if we start locking them and saying this is 16 pixels, this is 10 pixels, what about the times when people who maybe they're not fully blind, but they want to make their page more readable by zooming in or out on their page, or they're actually going into their settings and they're changing the font size, the default font size. So we want to be able to deal with those changes. Okay. So using these custom properties, we could do that with, our colors. That way, if as we're developing, we go through a design change in our colors, I don't have to repeat myself. If I'm using these custom properties, wherever I'm using those colors, then it makes it very convenient for me to be able to update a color, and everything on my change would be able to update with that color. So we do like to use the custom properties. Okay. So on this page, and I will provide this link on there, but again, you guys can search, you guys can use YouTube videos to see. There's a couple rules that we have to do. It is case sensitive. I have to start with 2 dashes and then I can name, and it has to be inside of some type of selector. So I'll show you guys how to do it for the entire page, and then if you want to override some of the stuff, you can do it in smaller selectors. Okay, so here we're going to do this with colors right here. Okay, so I'm going to build them into the Pirate Coffee House. Now this one I would probably put mine right above my CSS reset. You're going to write root just like this, and then that is going to be our selector. Okay, so this is selecting everything on the page, and then this is going to be my rule. So this is where I can apply my custom properties. So if I define it in here, then it exists everywhere on my page. And then if I want to override certain colors or do any of that stuff, say for just the line items, I can do that and I can have it change. I can also hook these to media queries too to be able to make some changes for that type of stuff. So let's start doing some colors. So we have dark color 1, dark color 2. Now there are a number of ways that I can actually put this on here, and when we look, we can see that we can put hex codes in there, but there is In CSS, there's a RGB value and there's an RGBA value. RGB for red, green, blue channels, which we could use. And that can also be translated into hex values. However, if I want to put some type of transparency on it, then if I leave it as RGB values, then when I am calling them in different stuff, I can actually add that alpha channel into there. Okay, so let's look at their colors. We have dark color 1, dark color 2. So when you're writing these, you can't use spaces. And I would, so this would be like my color, dark color 1, and then I am saying what the value is. So I would come here, and in this case, I want the RGB value. I don't want the hex value, okay? But instead of writing it, now you could write it like this. I'm not saying you can't. We could write it and put our value. This will be usable, but knowing that we might want to use alpha channels, so just so you guys can see this. So let's say we want to hit, maybe I am having a class, and this class is, let's just call it main title. Okay, that's my block element. Now, that's not a very good example of a block element because I don't have anything else in it. But, so this might be better for a utility class. Yeah, we could just say main color. Main color, or main, or maybe I'm calling it dark color 1. Okay, whatever I'm going to do for my utility class, then I am writing that class, dark color 1, and we're doing color, and then we're calling that. So this would be our, let's see, how did I put it in there? I did RGB here. So if I just call this dark color 1 as my property that I'm using, then that will apply to, where did I apply that class? There is saving issues going on right now. That will apply as the RGB, but there's actually another way that we can do it, and we got to write it actually like this, var, because we're saying that we're using a variable. Now let's go ahead and rerun. Okay, so I got to write var wherever I'm using that variable, and then I should be able to see that RGB color. Now that one is really kind of dark. We might want to actually, so just for this sake, I'm going to switch it back, but let's put this one on here. So we'll have our, what was our contrast color? Contrast color. Contrast color. Okay. And then, you know, if I have this RGB and I have the value in here, then I can apply, so let's say instead of here, I'm doing contrast color, and then I'm applying that, I'm building that class. So contrast color is going to be my utility class, and I'm applying that. Okay. So now we see that color change. Okay. Now the benefit of this is that I can change the colors up here, and it's going to change on all of my pages wherever I have that stuff. So that's super, super useful. So we can do some cool design type stuff with this. Now what I want to point out though is if I wanted to try to do an alpha channel, it would actually be a little bit easier if I'm just storing this whole thing. This is what I want. And then instead of me calling it here as a var like this, I'm going to say RGB inside here, and I'm pulling that var. Okay, that color's still there, but now if I want to add an alpha channel, like let's say 0.3, I can change the colors to different things. So I can use those alpha channels. So we can play around with the values instead of just having that RGB. Okay, so we can use more with that. So this is the way that I would tend to do it, is have the RGB for the colors, just know that you're going to be pulling all your stuff like this. Okay, so instead of doing it this way with the RGB, we are just storing the color value channels. Okay, and when we look at here, there are a number of things that we can actually store. We can even use previous stuff to go in for other properties so that we can build new properties off of old properties. Okay, so there's examples in this. I can use the hex values. I could do RGBA. I can do rem characters. All of that stuff, I can just build that in there. Okay, so let's look at dark color 2. I'm going to copy these colors. So basically, I'm just building the classes. So here, dark color 2. Those are my colors right there. And then I would want to have basically this class right here. I'm going to just copy and paste because I'm going to just modify. So dark color 2 and dark color 2. Okay, that is the colors. Now I might, instead of just, see, now this is just doing fonts. So it may make a lot more sense for me to do like something like font, maybe F, dark color 1, F, dark color 2, because then I'm letting myself know if I'm looking at HTML that I am doing this, I'm applying this dark color to the fonts. And then if I wanted to do a different color for the background, I could change that. So I could have this being applied as a background. So let's just do background dark color 1. And then this is background is the color var, and then I'm using this. Let's just copy the rest of that. Okay, so this would make it so that I can break up my stuff. Dark color 2, just so that we can see what we're doing. So we would end up having quite a bit of classes doing it this way that are utility classes, but it will ultimately make it easier for me to plug and play and understand what is going on when I'm looking at these. So F contrast color, and then let's copy, and we'll put BG. Okay, and change this to background. All of these should be RGB, and then we have the var inside. Var is just so that I can recognize that I have variables that I'm using. RGB should break stuff because now I'm not referencing. Okay. So that's just, I only did 3 colors so far, but now I got 6 utility classes. I got a light color 1, light color 2, bold color, and neutral color. Light color 1, let's go ahead and do that. Now we got kind of like an idea of how we want to do a layout. Light color 1. There we go. Let's copy for light color 2. Bold color. we go. A bold color, neutral color. When I'm designing stuff using utility classes, this is me just really moving my information into a place that it's easier for me to start like prototyping my idea. Neutral color, we have our neutral color picked out. Neutral color. So I could use this, I can use these for building my utility classes, and then when I want to change one of those dark colors, I can change it. It's going to update all my pages. It's going to be so much easier because then I just have all of my color scheme built off of this stuff. Okay, so let's go. We got light color 1, light color 2. I can basically take this, copy that whole thing, this is light, light, okay, so now I just got to do the other ones, which is my contrast color. I have my bold and my neutral. So I'm going to copy these two, and then I'm going to paste those twice. So there's 1 and 2. So here is my bold color. And then I have my neutral. Neutral. UTRL. Okay. The casing is specific though. I have to make sure that I am spelling them exactly the same and the capitalizations are exactly the same. So let's do bold and bold. And then here's my neutral color and my neutral color. All right, so it didn't take me very long to set this up. But now that I have them, now I can start using them. So I'm not really going to design the nav here. That was just for an idea for us to understand what's going on. Okay, so this is not what's going to be recognized, but I can start adding in. So maybe I want that contrast color for the foreground. So I can start looking at these and see what do I want. Okay, so let's do F here. We want that foreground contrast color, and we want the background neutral color. And then I need to make sure that I'm finishing. Okay, so see there's my neutral color for my background, and then here's my contrast color. So, I mean, I can flip that same thing here for my H2. Maybe I'm doing the bold color. So now I can just start actually using my colors and just painting with them. So maybe that goal, I want to be that the font bold color. And then maybe I want BG light color 1. Okay. And I can just keep going and going. So looking at, now I don't want some ugly looking rainbow, so there needs to be some type of cohesiveness for what I have. I might not be using black. I might just be using the dark colors, so font dark color 1 is my color that I'm using for my text. Now that is very subtle. And then I want to use my neutral background color. Okay. Now my neutral, very, very subtle, but there's a little bit of a bluish hue on there. So, that is just kind of adding stuff. So as I'm going through, I can start looking and seeing what I can just kind of design with colors just using my utility classes. I didn't even do block element on this for this. All I'm doing is just actually implementing these colors. Maybe I want all my paragraphs to have that color. Okay, there's nothing wrong with me doing that, just to make it so it has some kind of cohesive look to it. So I might change this for all my paragraphs to have that lighter color. So I'm building these custom properties for the paragraphs. And then where I can go with this is that I may end up, thinking that I want a little bit of a design change. I don't have to change a lot of code. I can just look at my colors and look at what utility classes I created to set this up, and this is all because of root variables. Okay. And then if I want to make those changes, so I already got this all plugged in, and I'm like, you know what? I want a different neutral color. So let's just so we can see what I'm talking about. Let's say I want a different neutral color. I don't like that color. Maybe I want more of like a lighter kind of green color. So this is the type of color that I want. So if I copy this and I make that design change, I'm not changing everywhere. I'm changing in one place. So we should see the light color, or the neutral color. That's where we're going to change it. So I'm going to comment this one out so I'm not losing what that was. Neutral color. That is my new code. See, it changed it here. It changed it here. It changed it here. It changed it here. It changed it everywhere where I got it applied already in my HTML. Pasting it in one place, that changed it all on that page. That's why we use external CSS. But if I had used this CSS and I'm properly linked with all 4 of my documents, I just changed the color on every single paragraph that I use that on. And it just conveniently makes it a lot easier for me to design the look and the layout using these custom properties. Okay, so there are documentation that is going to be, with this walkthrough that you guys can use to do this. I do want to see this, but I'm going to provide that documentation so that you guys can be able to see that you could do it for padding and for font sizes as well as margins. All right, good luck. Have fun.